So wait, so you're saying men only get validation from other men and they don't feel validated from their
No,
women when their
we don't
women.
look to get validation from women.
Okay, how
You
do you
can't
think men
validate
Right,
me
get
as a
valid?
right,
man.
right,
Hold on.
right,
How do you
right.
think that you validate your husband?
By again showing appreciation, acknowledging the things that he does.
He
More
I
puts
think
that.
a lot of
specifically,
times men and you, I guess if you don't receive it, if you don't get it, then you don't, I guess, necessarily understand it. And I'm not trying to say you specifically, I'm just saying in general. So
Yep.
I noticed the difference between when I acknowledge the things that my husband do versus overlooking those things. So for instance, if he takes out the garbage without me having to say, babe, the garbage is stinking, can you take it out? And I recognize that he took it out without me saying something, and I acknowledge that, I, in terms, validate the fact that I'm acknowledging that he does things in the house as opposed to me not, because when I ignore it or I say, you don't ever take the garbage or something like that, then that is definitely minimizing what he does. But when I acknowledge that he contributes, I'm validating that in his mind, he's like, I know I do shit in his house. And when I acknowledge that, I'm validating the fact that he does shit in the house.
you
So I do
acknowledge it.
think women validate their men. I think it's the type of validation that men give other men versus what their wives or girlfriends give them is different.
Okay.
So I want to give a slightly different example, right? I was watching this show the other day, where the woman was complaining that her man was not romantic enough, right? I think that's a pretty common complaint a lot of women have. And then when they broke down the story, I was like, "Yep, I understand why he doesn't do this." So he had a whole setup. We all see Instagram, social media. He had done his best to kind of replicate something that she'd seen and liked. And her response to his effort was, "Well, it doesn't look like the video that I was looking at. It doesn't look like this, right?"
Hmm.
I think that lack of appreciation to him was like, well, this is extra. I don't have to do this at all. And she's still in the relationship with him, right? So, like, she validated that experience. So I think there is a level of appreciation that is required in a relationship for the effort that you put in for the relationship. Like, there's the things that you do out of obligation, and then there's the things that men do that are to show appreciation to their woman, which should also be reciprocated with appreciation, right? That's where that validation kind of comes in, where, hey, you went above and beyond. I want to acknowledge that and appreciate that and let you know that, like, you did a great job.
Mhm.
You didn't have to do this. I'm acknowledging that. And you did a great job at it. I'm also acknowledging that. Right? I think that's really important.
So what I
Um,
will say is that is damn, because it sounds so. What I'll say is that I'm not sure
That's funny.
men. I definitely can see it why our women would think they're validating us. I'm not sure men accept that as validation.
Absolutely not.
I don't
so
think because
here's
That
yeah.
why.
said a whole bunch of nothing.
Hank, give me a second. So the reason I see it as validation is the fact that the moment it's received with a lack of appreciation,
Mhm.
it stops.
Mhm.
So there is that. Whereas with men who receive that appreciation, that behavior continues, right? So there is a level of validation that's involved in that process for a man to continue to do something that his woman is like, hey,
Hmm.
I love this. This made me appreciate you so much more.
I'm not even trying to play the semantics game. I'm gonna call it acknowledgement. I think in order for him to know how the hell to please, that's one thing that we say is like, how do I please this woman? Goddamn. So when you acknowledge it, yes, we will continue it. I'm struggling. I don't know if anybody else is struggling with the word validation.
Yeah, I
But
just think this is
you know what I mean?
semantics.
You could be right, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying, because the
I could
way
be wrong. I'm
you
with
and Mistaken explained it, it's almost as if y'all are rubbing on my, oh, you such a good boy, like you do the dog or something. I don't
I
need that shit.
know.
I don't need that shit.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's just
I was
semantics.
trying to look up, like validation or whatever, and it was saying validation of
Where the
someone.
real love at?
Validation of someone refers to the act of recognizing, acknowledging, and affirming another person, right? Feelings, thoughts, experience, or whatever, as valid. So, in that regard, based on that definition, women do validate men just like men validate women. If it's about the act of recognizing and acknowledging and affirming each other, then if you're not getting that, then that's not a good thing. You should.
So here's the other thing, right? Because like after Mistaken read that definition, let me tell you, when a woman looks at her man and is like, I'm so glad I got you and I don't have to be in these streets with these other men. I'm so glad, like, I'm so appreciative of everything you do for us. Like, is that not validating to the work that you actually put in?
That's popular.
And like
right
who you are and what you bring into the relationship. Is that not, does that not reaffirm and acknowledge your contributions?
I mean, it's good to hear. No, so I'm not trying to be an asshole and act like it's not good to hear. So this is probably, and I'm not even like, I'm telling you, you could be right, and I'm just struggling to fully accept it. But what I will say on the, because when you said the definition, do you know what I thought about?
What?
Validation can also work in reverse, right? It can also, so remember, like shame, if you accept it, is because it's from somebody you either admire, respect, or you feel has power over you. So it's funny when I read the chat and be like, it'll say something like Trigger Mike hates black women. But it's funny because I feel differently when a man says it versus a woman. I don't give two shits if a woman says I hate black women.
I think it's
but
different.
It's because I don't let women validate anything about my worldview, because I think we see the world differently. But when a man be like, you hate black women, I'd be like, well, tell me why. Tell me why you think I hate. So it's almost as if my brother's opinion means more to me, and because it's actually the validation I'm seeking. Maybe that's what it is. It could actually, from the definition, be validation from my woman, but the validation I'm seeking, and I believe most men are seeking, is from their brothers and male counterparts, if that makes sense.